Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Reading the Bible cover to cover. Today we're on day 23 and we are going through Exodus 18 to chapter 21. Of course, it is Jethro visiting Moses and the institution of judges and the like, as well as God appearing to Moses and delivering the 10 Commandments, which I was looking forward to. So my first point is in 18:8. Just a point here where Jethro responded with more faith than the people that experienced that event, which I think is often quite commonplace in today's society. Kind of funny. 19:18, of course, is another example of God entering into creation, where it is said, now Mount Sinai was wrapped up in smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. Nice. In 19:20, God sets very strict instructions with how to be approached, which is quite a contrast with today's charismatic movements in a sense. Of course, he talks about no hand shall touch him, but he will be stoned or shot. Whether beast or man, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds a long blast, they shall come up onto the mountain, etc. Of course, now we're going into the 10 Commandments, which I was looking forward to. This isn't an exhaustive list in a sense. It's not detailing every aspect of life, but it is a guide on how to remain faithful in that sense, which is pretty cool. Of course, jumping into 22, we have and the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. This is another constant name for God that is repeated frequently throughout the Old Testament. 20 verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me, the first commandment, of course, and it's talking about as the one true God, he cannot tolerate the worship of other gods, which is fair enough. Not that I have any say on it, but this Hebrew expression is in the commentary most likely refers to worshipping other gods in addition to the Lord. So that's another example. It's interesting because we often sometimes almost get that on the street in a sense. Oh, can I be a Buddhist and a Christian? Can I be this and this? It's like, no. Sorry about that, but no. If this is the truth, then you'll hold to it like the truth, which is quite easy for me to say. Chapter 20, verse 5 to 6. For you shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. So, of course, almost in a way of generational sin, generational punishment that can be broken by obedience. Not that obedience is a prerequisite to getting into heaven, but that through the love of Jesus on the cross, we can be redeemed. 20 verse 7. Of course, this is talking about you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. This can also refer to taking a deceptive oath with God's name, invoking God's name to justify a dishonest act, magic, irreverently, or disrespectfully. FYI. 20 verse 8. It's also talking about the Sabbath day to keep it holy. There's two examples here. Which is one example, but there's another example in the commentary, of course, the whole gathering of manna, but the Lord resting on the seventh day, which is very nice, but it is the only Old Testament commandment that isn't explicitly reintroduced in the New Testament. Of course, we have thou shalt not murder is almost reintroduced in a way of like adding a whole nother level of getting angry at someone as like committing murder. You've got, of course, honor your father and mother, which is in Ephesians 6, which is reaffirmed in a sense, but not exactly the Sabbath. We do see people holding to the Sabbath, but to the best of my knowledge, we do not see it reiterated or reinterpreted. Which is quite interesting because for Seventh-day Adventists, the Sabbath is quite an important doctrine, quite a central doctrine in the sense. It's almost like the doctrine above all other doctrines. Wait, you need to really follow the Sabbath. So that's quite interesting, as we can kind of see here. Who God is referencing in this text is the Lord God who brought you out of Egypt. He's addressing the people of Israel in this context. Now, of course, like I said before, we follow these commandments as a moral law, because not just because they're reiterated in the New Testament, but that's one of the main reasons I'm getting at. But you will frequently have Seventh-day Adventists point to you and be like, why don't you follow all the laws? All the laws. Well, it's because the majority of these laws were for the people of Israel. Now, I do follow the majority of these to the best of my ability. Well, not even that, because I fail on that standard. But yes, you get my point. That wasn't even a point. I just came up with that on the spot. Chapter 20, verse 22 to 26. Oh no, I'm missing another part. 20, verse 13 to 14. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery. This is re-referenced in Matthew 5. Of course, it's taken to another level. If you call your brother a fool, if you get angry with them, if you look at a woman with lust, this is the commentary is quite interesting because it talks about these are the minimum standards for a just society. Israel is later called to be holy and to love the God with all their heart, soul, and might, and to show their neighbours goodwill and generosity. When Jesus refers to the law and Sermon on the Mount, he is correcting the mistaken assumption that these laws, as understood by the Pharisees, revealed all of what it meant to be a child of God. Very nice. Of course, again in chapter 20, verse 22 to 26, 22 to 26, we have another instruction on how God should be worshipped and the particular nature of that, which is another strict example on worship. And then chapter 21, verse 16, we have an example. I get this a lot, where people are like, what about slavery in the Bible? And stuff like that, stuff like that. The thing with ancient slavery, as frequent in the days of Israel, was that people would often sell themselves into slavery, often to pay debts and stuff like that. In 21 verse 16, it's putting a shutdown on the idea of slavery that we have in a modern society, which is forceful slavery in a sense. 21:16, for example, whoever steals a man and sells him, and anyone found in possession of him shall be put to death. Very clear there. And with that, we end right there. But I would say, if you worry that you failed the law over and over again, I would say do worry. We all have. But through Jesus, through trusting in his work on the cross, we can have freedom. Thanks for watching.